Welcome to Scared Stories for a Rainy Night. As a reminder, before we begin, there are minimum ads in this entire video, so you can relax, sleep, and listen to the video without interruptions. I really hope you enjoy, and lastly, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you. I never thought I'd be the one to uncover a mystery that would haunt me for the rest of my life. My name is Jordan Mercer, a small-town radio host, and the night everything changed began like any other. It was a chilly October evening, the kind that wrapped the world in a thin, eerie veil of fog. The station was quiet, save for the soft crackle of the old equipment and the comforting hum of the heater. I was settling in for my late-night show when a call came through. The voice on the other end was shaky, barely above a whisper. "Help me! They're coming for me!" I leaned closer to the microphone, a knot forming in my stomach. "Who's coming for you? Where are you?" But the line went dead. I glanced at the clock. It was 11:57 p.m. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just another prank, but the chill in my spine told me otherwise. Moments later, a strange sound echoed through the station. Static, but not the usual kind. This was deeper, almost human-like, as if someone or something was trying to communicate through the frequency. Curiosity piqued. I adjusted the dials, trying to isolate the source. That's when I noticed something peculiar. The old receiver, which hadn't worked in years, flickered to life, revealing a distorted image on the small screen. The figure was cloaked in shadows, but the eyes, they were piercing, almost pleading. "Help me," it rasped, and I froze. The voice sounded eerily familiar, like the caller from earlier. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. My heart raced as I fumbled for my flashlight. Just then, the studio door creaked open, and I felt a cold draft sweep through the room. I directed the beam toward the entrance, and my breath caught in my throat. There, standing in the doorway, was a figure. A woman, drenched and shivering, her face a mask of terror. "They're after me," she gasped, stumbling inside. I quickly locked the door behind her, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Who's after you?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. "The ones who listen, they hear everything," she whispered, her eyes darting around the room as if expecting someone to burst through the walls. I was about to question her further when the radio crackled again, and the voice returned, clearer this time. "Jordan, help her. She's the key." "Key to what?" I shouted into the darkness, but the voice faded away, leaving only silence. The woman turned to me, her expression shifting from fear to despair. "You need to turn it off. If you don't, they'll come for you too." My mind raced. What was she talking about? I had no idea what I was dealing with. The radio? Was it just a machine, or was it something more? As I contemplated my next move, a series of loud bangs echoed outside the station, rattling the windows. The woman screamed, and I grabbed her arm. "We need to go." But as we rushed toward the exit, something pulled me back, a cold sense of dread washing over me. I glanced at the radio, now glowing ominously, and a thought struck me. What if the broadcast wasn't just a way to communicate? What if it was a way to trap? I turned to the woman, my heart pounding. What if we're not meant to leave? What if this is all part of their game? She stepped back, confusion and terror mixing in her eyes. "What do you mean?" Before I could answer, the lights flickered back on, revealing the radio screen once more. This time, it displayed a countdown. 10, 9, 8. My breath caught in my throat. I realized then that I had been broadcasting the whole time. Broadcasting our fear, our panic, feeding whatever entity had taken an interest in us. "Jordan, we need to..." the woman began, but it was too late. The countdown reached 0, and the radio emitted a blaring sound that filled the room. The walls shook, and shadows twisted around us, morphing into dark figures, their eyes glowing with hunger. In that moment, I understood. The mystery wasn't about saving her. It was about becoming part of the broadcast, part of the darkness that thrived on our fear. And as the figures closed in, I realized I was no longer just Jordan Mercer, the small-town radio host. I was the voice, the signal, and the key to a nightmare that would spread long after my last broadcast. The last thing I heard was the woman's terrified scream, swallowed by the static, then silence. It was a chilly October night in 2022, and I had just settled in for my usual shift at Marty's Market. I was the lone cashier, a 24-year-old college student trying to make ends meet. The store was located on a deserted highway, surrounded by dense woods. It was the type of place where the only sounds were the crickets outside and the occasional hum of the fluorescent lights flickering above. As the clock struck midnight, the store was eerily quiet. I was scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the suffocating silence. Suddenly, the doorbell chimed, and I looked up, startled. A man in a tattered coat entered, his face obscured by shadows. He shuffled to the back of the store without saying a word. I felt a knot twist in my stomach. It wasn't unusual for customers to act strange at this hour, but something about him felt off. I tried to focus on my tasks, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I glanced towards the back of the store, and to my horror, the man had vanished. Minutes turned into an hour, and I couldn't ignore the unease gnawing at me. That's when I noticed the flickering lights again. They dimmed and brightened sporadically, and an unsettling chill filled the air. I decided to check the back of the store, hoping to find the man and send him on his way. As I ventured deeper into the aisles, the shadows seemed to stretch and twist around me. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone back here?" My voice echoed, swallowed by the silence. I reached the end of the aisle and turned the corner, only to find the man standing there, staring blankly at the wall. "Sir?" I said, my voice trembling. He turned slowly, and when our eyes met, I felt a jolt of terror coursing through me. His eyes were hollow, devoid of any life. He opened his mouth, but no words came out, only a raspy, breathy sound that sent shivers down my spine. In a panic, I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. I rushed back to the front of the store, locking the door behind me. My heart raced as I tried to rationalize what had just happened. Was I imagining things? Had I been working too long? I glanced at the clock. It was 2:30 a.m. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Just then, the doorbell chimed again. My heart sank. He hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. I approached the door cautiously. When I opened it, I was met with the same man, but this time he was smiling. An unsettling, wide grin that stretched unnaturally across his face. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice a low whisper. "They're coming for you." I slammed the door shut, my hands shaking. I called my manager, but the phone line was dead. Panic surged through me. I turned to the security monitors, hoping to find some sense of normalcy. But what I saw made my blood run cold. The cameras showed multiple figures creeping towards the store from the woods. Shadowy silhouettes, gliding silently, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. I was trapped, completely isolated. With no other option, I decided to barricade myself in the back office. I pushed the desk against the door and sat on the floor, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear whispers outside, a chorus of voices chanting my name. Suddenly, the lights went out. I was plunged into complete darkness, my breathing echoing in the silence. I fumbled for my phone, using the flashlight to illuminate the space around me. That's when I noticed a piece of paper lying on the floor. As I picked it up, my stomach dropped. It was a note written in shaky handwriting. "You can't escape. You're one of us now." Adrenaline surged through me. I realized the man in the store had never been a customer. He was a warning. I was not alone in that store. I was never alone. My mind raced as I thought about the implications. Just then, the door began to rattle. I held my breath, waiting for the inevitable. The whispers grew louder, more frantic. And then, as if the universe had a twisted sense of humor, the lights flickered back on. I thought I was ready to face whatever was behind that door, but as I turned to confront them, I froze. Instead of the shadowy figures, I saw my own reflection in the mirror behind me. I was grinning, my face twisted into that same unnerving smile. And that's when I realized I had become one of them. I was the one who had been luring in the unsuspecting victims. The night shift at Marty's Market wasn't just a job, it was my new reality. I don't know if anyone is still out there, but if you ever find yourself in a small convenience store on a deserted highway late at night, remember, sometimes the store is not what it seems. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm a freelance journalist specializing in urban legends and haunted locations. I've spent countless nights chasing the thrill of the unknown, but nothing prepared me for what happened last night in the old Holloway house. The Holloway house is notorious in our town, a decaying relic that locals claim is cursed. They whispered about the family who lived there, how they vanished without a trace in the dead of winter, their screams echoing in the night. I decided it was time to investigate this legend for my YouTube channel, Sarah's Haunting Chronicles. As I set up my camera gear in the dilapidated living room, the air felt thick, heavy with the weight of countless secrets. The peeling wallpaper seemed to pulsate, and an unsettling chill crept down my spine. I started recording, my voice shaky but determined. "Hey everyone, it's Sarah. Tonight I'm exploring the infamous Holloway house where the Holloway family disappeared. Legend has it that their spirits still roam these halls." As I narrated, I heard a faint whisper, like a breeze carrying a voice. I paused, my heart racing. "Did you hear that?" I asked the camera, glancing around. The room was empty, but the feeling of being watched was palpable. I pressed on, setting up my voice recorder and asking questions into the darkness. "Is anyone here with me? Can you tell me what happened to your family?" The silence was deafening, but then I heard it again, a soft, almost melodic whisper coming from the hallway. Curiosity piqued, I walked toward the sound, my footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. The hallway was lined with faded photographs of the Holloway family. Their eyes seemed to follow me, a chilling reminder of their lost lives. I reached the end of the hall, where an old door stood slightly ajar. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open. The room inside was dark, the air stale. I turned on my flashlight, revealing a child's bedroom frozen in time. Toys scattered across the floor, and a small bed tucked into the corner. As I stepped inside, the whispering grew louder, almost urgent. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me, cutting off the light from the hallway. Panic surged through me. I fumbled for my phone, illuminating the room. "Hello? Is anyone there?" My voice trembled as I swung the flashlight around, but the room remained empty. Just then, the whispers crescendoed into a chorus of pleading voices, filling my ears with desperate cries. "Help us! Help us!" It was overwhelming. I pressed my hands against my ears, trying to block it out. I was about to scream when I noticed something glimmering on the floor. It was a small, ornate locket. I picked it up, feeling its cold metal against my skin. As I opened it, the whispers ceased. Inside was a picture of a little girl, her eyes wide with terror. Suddenly, I felt a rush of cold air and the lights flickered. "Sarah!" a voice echoed, soft yet commanding. "Find us?" The door creaked open, and I stumbled back into the hallway, heart racing. I glanced at the locket in my hand, and the whispers returned, but this time they were clearer. "Downstairs. Find us." I knew I had to follow the voices. I hurried down the creaking stairs, each step feeling like a descent into madness. As I reached the basement door, I hesitated. The whispers grew louder, almost frantic. "Please, help us." I swung the door open and descended into the darkness. The basement was cold and damp, the smell of mildew thick in the air. The whispering stopped, and an eerie silence enveloped me. I scanned the room with my flashlight, revealing old furniture covered in dust and cobwebs. Suddenly, I noticed a shadow darting across the far wall. My heart stopped. "Is anyone there?" I called out. There was no answer, but the shadow reappeared, closer this time. "Help us," it echoed, forming into a figure, a young girl with hollow eyes and a sad smile. "Who are you?" I stammered. "I am Emily," she whispered. "You have to find my family. They're trapped, just like me." I felt a surge of dread. "Where are they?" "Behind the wall." She pointed to a section of the basement that looked oddly out of place. "You have to free them." With trembling hands, I pushed against the wall. To my shock, it gave way, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside were old belongings, family photos, toys, and a dusty journal. I flipped it open, revealing entries filled with fear and despair. The Holloway family had been trapped, imprisoned by something dark. As I read, the whispers returned, now frantic and desperate. "Help us! Help us!" In a moment of clarity, I realized the truth. The family hadn't vanished. They had been bound to this house, their souls trapped, unable to escape. I had to set them free. "Emily, how can I help you?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. "Destroy the locket," she urged. "It binds us." I hesitated. The weight of the locket in my hand felt like a curse, but I knew what I had to do. With a swift motion, I smashed it against the concrete floor. A blinding light erupted from the shards, and the whispers erupted into a cacophony of relief and gratitude. I felt a rush of energy, and the shadows around me began to dissipate, revealing the Holloway family, their faces serene and grateful. "Thank you," Emily whispered, her figure slowly fading. "We are free." As the last remnants of the family vanished, I stood alone in the basement, the air now still and calm. I stumbled back upstairs, feeling a weight lifted from my chest. I had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. I turned off my camera, my hands shaking. The night had changed me. As I left the Holloway house, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I glanced back one last time, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Emily standing in the window, smiling and waving goodbye. But as I drove away, I couldn't help but wonder, had I truly freed them, or had I merely released something far worse? The truth is, sometimes the whispers of the past linger on, waiting for another soul to listen, and perhaps to join them. It's Mark. I'm sharing a chilling experience that happened to me last Halloween, just a year ago. I was working as a night custodian at a local high school. Definitely not the job I dreamed of, but it paid the bills. Little did I know that Halloween would turn my mundane routine into a nightmare. It was around 11 p.m., and the school was eerily quiet. save for the occasional creak of old floorboards. I was sweeping the hallways, the dim fluorescent lights flickering above, casting long, distorted shadows. I had just finished in the science wing when I noticed a door slightly ajar at the end of the hallway where the drama room was located. The lights were still on inside, and a cold draft seemed to seep from the crack. Curiosity piqued, I approached the door. As I peered inside, I saw the stage props scattered around, but what caught my attention was a dusty old mirror leaning against the wall. It was ornate, with intricate carvings that hinted at a forgotten past. I stepped in, feeling compelled to touch it, even though a chill ran down my spine. When my fingers brushed against the glass, I felt a jolt, as if the mirror had awakened something within. Suddenly, I heard a soft whisper, barely audible, but it sent shivers down my spine. "Help me!" I stepped back, heart racing. Had I imagined it? I shook my head, trying to brush it off. As I turned to leave, the door slammed shut behind me. Panic surged through me. I rattled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. I was trapped. The whispering intensified, echoing in my ears. "Help me! Help me!" It was coming from the mirror. In a frantic attempt to escape, I pounded on the door, but no one was there to hear me. Just then, an unsettling thought crossed my mind. What if the mirror was a portal? What if someone was stuck inside? I hesitated, my heart pounding, but the whispering grew louder, almost pleading. Gathering my courage, I approached the mirror again. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice trembling. To my shock, the surface of the glass rippled like water, and I saw a woman's face, gaunt and hollow-eyed. She looked directly at me, her lips moving, but the words were drowned by the sinister whispers. "Help me. I'm trapped. In here." Against my better judgment, I pressed my hand against the mirror again, and the world around me shifted. I felt a pull, as if the mirror was dragging me in. I tried to resist, but the force was too strong, and before I knew it, I was tumbling forward into darkness. When I landed, I was no longer in the drama room. I found myself in a dimly lit version of the school, everything twisted and warped. Shadows danced along the walls, and the whispers surrounded me, echoes of laughter, cries, and despair. I was not alone. I stumbled through the hallways searching for an exit, but every door I opened led me deeper into this nightmare. I caught glimpses of students trapped in their own cycles of fear, reliving their worst moments over and over again. I called out for help, but my voice was lost in the cacophony. Just as I thought I'd be lost forever, I spotted the mirror again, shining faintly at the end of a long corridor. I ran towards it, desperation fueling my every step. I reached out, my fingers grazing the surface, and in that moment, I felt a surge of warmth. I could see the woman's face again, but now there was something different in her eyes. Hope. "Break it," she urged, her voice clearer now. "End this." With all my strength, I slammed my fist against the glass. A blinding light enveloped me, and the whispers reached a deafening crescendo. I screamed, and then silence. I woke up back in the drama room, the mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces around me. I could hear the distant sounds of the school returning to normal. I was free, but the experience left a mark on my soul. I've returned to work as a custodian, but sometimes, late at night, I still hear the whispers, echoes of the trapped souls yearning for release. I don't know if they'll ever truly be free, but I've learned to respect the shadows that linger in the corners of our world. So, what do you think? Should I go back and investigate further? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling stories. Stay safe out there, everyone. You never know what might be lurking just beyond the shadows. My name is Lucas, and I'm a night shift janitor at the old Ravenswood Institute, a once prestigious mental health facility that has long since been abandoned. The building, draped in a shroud of darkness, stands at the edge of town, its cracked windows and rotting facade whispering tales of forgotten sorrows. I took this job to pay off my student loans, but I quickly learned that the night shift wasn't just a means to an end. It was an entryway into something far more sinister. The first night I stepped inside Ravenswood, a chill crawled up my spine. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the echoes of my footsteps against the cold tile floor. As I moved through the dimly lit corridors, the flickering fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows that danced across the walls. My task was simple: clean the common areas, empty the trash, and make sure no one had squatted in the building. But as the hours dragged on, I began to feel as though I was not alone. On the second night, while sweeping the remnants of dust and despair from the day room, I heard it, a faint whisper, like a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves. I paused, my heart racing, straining to catch the words. "Help me." It was barely audible, and I shook my head, convincing myself it was just the wind or my imagination playing tricks. But the feeling of being watched lingered, gnawing at the back of my mind as I continued my work. The whispers grew more frequent, haunting me in the corners of the abandoned facility. "Help me," a voice would echo from the hallway. "You have to find me." Each time I heard it, I felt an inexplicable urge to follow. Despite my better judgment, curiosity pulled me closer. I began exploring the building after my cleaning duties, searching for the source of the voice. The further I ventured, the more I felt the shadows around me shift, as if they were alive, breathing and waiting. One night, I stumbled upon a locked door at the end of a narrow corridor. The whispers intensified, now sounding desperate. "Please help me." It was a woman's voice, raw with anguish. Adrenaline surged through me, and I instinctively jiggled the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. I glanced around, expecting someone or something to emerge from the darkness. I felt the weight of the shadows pressing against me, suffocating and cold. Determined to uncover the truth, I returned the next night with tools to pry the door open. The whispers enveloped me, urging me on, pulling me into a frenzy of fear and excitement. I finally managed to unlock it, the door creaking open like an ancient tomb. A wave of musty air hit my face as I stepped inside, revealing a small, dimly lit room filled with old furniture and tattered medical records. The whispers escalated, swirling around me like a tempest. Then I saw her, a figure crouched in the corner, her hair hanging like a curtain over her face. "Help me," she begged, her voice trembling. I stepped closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "Who are you?" I asked, but my voice came out as a whisper. As she looked up, I was met with a pair of hollow, sunken eyes that seemed to pierce through me. "You don't understand," she rasped. "They're coming for you." Panic shot through me as I stumbled backward. "Who's coming?" I demanded, fear clawing at my throat. Before she could answer, the shadows around her shifted, coalescing into dark figures that loomed menacingly at the door. I froze, paralyzed by terror as they advanced. "Run!" she screamed. But I was rooted to the spot, unable to tear my gaze from the horrifying scene. In a sudden rush of instinct, I turned and sprinted down the corridor, the whispers morphing into chaotic screams, echoing in my ears. I could feel their icy breath on my neck as I raced through the building, each footfall pounding like a drum in my ears. I burst through the exit, slamming the door behind me, heart racing and chest heaving. I thought I had escaped, but the following nights were plagued by nightmares. I would wake up gasping for breath, the whispers still reverberating in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me, lurking just beyond the shadows of my consciousness. Desperate for answers, I began to research Ravenswood and discovered its dark history. Rumors of unethical experiments, isolation, and tragic deaths. Then, one night, while cleaning, I glanced at the old photographs hanging on the wall, showing the staff and patients from decades ago. My heart nearly stopped as I recognized the woman from the locked room. Her name was Sarah, a patient who had gone missing under mysterious circumstances. The whispers returned, this time clearer. Find my body. Help me rest. With newfound determination, I delved deeper into my research, uncovering the truth buried within the walls of Ravenswood. I learned that Sarah's spirit was trapped, unable to move on due to the horrors she had endured. I realized I needed to return to the room, not just to confront my fear, but to help her find peace. That night, I returned with a flashlight and a shovel, ready to dig up the secrets of the past. As I entered the room, the shadows whispered my name, but this time I felt a sense of calm. I began to dig in the corner where she had been crouched, the whispers urging me on. Hours passed, and just as I was about to give up, my shovel struck something hard. A chill ran down my spine as I unearthed a small box, locked tight. I pried it open and gasped. Inside were her belongings, a locket, a diary, and a set of medical records detailing her tragic fate. But as I held the items, the shadows thickened, and the whispers turned into anguished wails. "You've awakened them!" Sarah's voice shrieked, now filled with terror. I realized too late that I had disturbed something far darker than I had anticipated. The shadows surged, enveloping me in darkness. In the chaos, I felt the cold grip of hands pulling me back, dragging me into the depths of Ravenswood. "No, I'm trying to help you," I screamed, but my voice was swallowed by the abyss. Just as I thought I would be consumed entirely, Sarah's voice broke through the din. "They cannot take you if you know the truth." In that moment, clarity struck me. I recalled the diary, flipping it open in my mind's eye. It detailed the experiments conducted within Ravenswood, the very experiments that led to the suffering of many, including Sarah. I focused on the truth, the pain, the reality of what had happened. With a surge of willpower, I shouted into the void, "I know what they did. I know your pain." The shadows hesitated, then began to recede. I felt the grip loosening, and suddenly I was free, collapsing onto the floor of the room. As the dust settled, the shadows faded, and in their place stood Sarah, her expression softening. "Thank you," she whispered, a serene smile breaking through her anguish. "You've set me free." And just like that, she vanished into the light, leaving behind a sense of peace that washed over the room. I sat there, trembling but relieved, knowing that I had not only confronted my fears, but had also helped a lost soul find her way home. Days turned into weeks, and I continued my work at Ravenswood, but the whispers were gone. The shadows no longer haunted me. Instead, I felt a sense of purpose, knowing that I had uncovered the truth and brought closure to a tragic story that had long been buried in darkness. But every so often, in the silence of the night, I still hear the faintest echo of Sarah's voice, reminding me that some stories will never truly end, and that the past has a way of lingering even in the light. My name is Russell. I'm a 27-year-old freelance photographer, and I've always been drawn to the eerie beauty of abandoned places. The thrill of capturing forgotten moments on film keeps my adrenaline pumping, but there's one place that forever altered my perception of the world, and I'm here to share my story. It was a chilly October evening, just past 6 o'clock, when I decided to explore an old Victorian mansion on the outskirts of town. The locals called it the Holloway House, notorious for its dark history. Rumor had it that the previous owner, a reclusive artist named Evelyn Holloway, went mad after the tragic death of her daughter. They say her spirit never left the house, wandering the halls in search of her lost child. I parked my car on the overgrown driveway, the crunch of leaves beneath my feet echoing in the stillness. The mansion loomed ahead, its once grand facade now draped in shadows and decay. My heart raced with excitement and fear as I stepped through the creaking front door. The air inside was thick with dust and an unsettling silence that wrapped around me like a shroud. I turned on my flashlight and began to snap photos, the beam illuminating peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. As I explored room after room, I felt an odd sensation, like I was being watched. I brushed it off, just my imagination playing tricks in the dim light. Then I reached the staircase leading up to the attic. The steps groaned under my weight, but a strange pull urged me upward. As I reached the attic door, I hesitated. A chill crawled up my spine as I felt an inexplicable dread, but the thrill of discovery drove me to push it open. The attic was filled with forgotten relics, dusty canvases, old toys, and a massive ornate mirror that caught my eye. The surface was mottled and cracked, but it drew me in like a magnet. I approached cautiously, peering into the glass. My reflection stared back, but something felt off. The space behind me was empty, yet I could have sworn I saw a shadow flicker in the corner of my eye. I turned quickly, my heart pounding, but there was nothing there. Shaking off the unease, I returned to the mirror. Suddenly, a whisper echoed in the attic, soft, haunting, and unmistakable. "Help me!" My breath caught in my throat. Panicking, I stumbled back, knocking over a stack of boxes. They crashed to the floor, sending dust swirling into the air. Something caught my eye in the mirror again, but this time the shadow appeared clearer. A small girl in a faded white dress, her face obscured by dark hair. My heart raced as I realized she was staring directly at me, her eyes pleading. I backed away slowly, but my foot caught on something, a loose floorboard. I fell, hitting my head hard against the wooden floor. Stars danced in my vision as the world faded away. When I came to, the attic was silent. I sat up, disoriented, and glanced at the mirror. This time, there was no reflection of myself. Instead, the little girl stood there, smiling eerily, as if she had been waiting for me to wake up. In a panic, I scrambled to my feet and dashed for the door. As I turned to flee, the attic filled with a chilling laughter echoing off the walls. The girl's voice rang out once more, clear and commanding. "Stay with me." The door slammed shut, trapping me inside. I banged on it, desperation rising as the laughter morphed into sobs. I could feel the air growing colder, the shadows closing in around me. Just when I thought I'd be consumed by darkness, I recalled my camera. I had to document this. I raised it and snapped a photo of the mirror, hoping to capture the truth. The flash illuminated the room, and for a brief moment, the girl's expression shifted from joy to rage. The laughter turned into a shriek that pierced through the air, and I felt a force pushing me back. In a final desperate move, I lunged for the door again. This time, it swung open with an eerie creak. I bolted down the stairs, the sobs echoing behind me and out into the night. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. Breathless and trembling, I glanced back at the mansion. The attic window glowed faintly, and I swear I saw her silhouette watching me, a silent promise of revenge. Days later, I developed the film from that night. As I flipped through the images, my heart sank. Every photo was clear, except for the one of the mirror. It was blank, save for one haunting detail. A small handprint smeared across the glass. Tiny fingers reaching out as if to pull me back. So here I am, sharing this tale with you, hoping it serves as a warning. Some places are better left alone, and some spirits are not ready to let go. I may have escaped, but the Holloway house will always haunt my dreams. Don't let curiosity lead you to the shadows. You never know what might be waiting for you there. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and remember, not all reflections are what they seem. My name is Ella, and I'm a night shift security guard at an abandoned amusement park on the outskirts of town. The place has been closed for over a decade, left to rot under the weight of its own memories. It was a simple job: sit in my little booth, watch the monitors, and make sure no one broke in to steal the remnants of joy that had once filled the air. I remember my first night, the feeling that crept up my spine as I settled into the chair, the flickering lights of the park casting eerie shadows over the cracked pavement. The laughter of children echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder of what the park had once been. But the longer I stayed, the more I realized the ghosts of the past were not just memories. On my third night, around 3 a.m., the monitors started acting up. The screens flickered, showing static before the image stabilized. I rubbed my eyes, convinced I was imagining things. The Ferris wheel loomed in the distance, its once vibrant colors now faded and peeling. But something was off. I could have sworn I saw a figure standing at the base of the ride, a shadowy silhouette that seemed too still. I leaned in closer, squinting at the screen. My heart raced as I noticed the figure was gone. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog of exhaustion. Just my imagination, I told myself. As I turned to grab my coffee, I heard a soft giggle resonate through the air. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. I was alone. I reminded myself of that fact, but the giggle came again, this time closer. Gripping my flashlight, I stepped outside, the beam cutting through the darkness. With each step forward, the laughter grew louder, echoing off the rusted rides. I knew I should turn back, but something compelled me to follow the sound. It led me to the carousel, its horses frozen mid-gallop, their eyes staring vacantly into the void. "Hello," I called, my voice trembling. The laughter stopped, replaced by an unsettling silence. Then I noticed a figure perched on one of the horses. A girl. She couldn't have been more than 8. Her dress tattered and her eyes wide with a mix of innocence and something darker. "Are you lost?" I asked, approaching cautiously. She tilted her head, a smile creeping across her face, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm waiting for my friends," she said, her voice sweet yet chilling. "They'll be here soon." A shiver ran down my spine. The hair on my arms stood on end, and I felt the urge to flee. But the girl beckoned me closer. "You should stay. We can play together." Just then, the monitors in the booth flickered to life again. I rushed back, my heart pounding in my chest. The screens showed the park in disarray, rides jerking violently, shadows darting behind the attractions. Panic surged through me. I grabbed my radio, ready to call for backup. But before I could speak, the girl's voice crackled through the radio, soft and playful. "You can't leave, Ella. You're part of the fun now." In an instant, the lights around the park dimmed, plunging me into darkness. I felt a cold breeze brush past me, and the laughter returned, echoing all around. I stumbled back, trying to find the exit, but the path seemed to twist and turn, leading me deeper into the park's heart. As I sprinted, I caught glimpses of figures, children with hollow eyes, their smiles wide and unnatural, reaching out to me. I could hear their whispers, urging me to join them in their eternal game. My pulse raced as I realized they were trapped, just like me. I burst into the main square, breathless and terrified. The girl stood in the center, her smile now sinister. "I told you they'd come for you," she said, her voice echoing around me. The ground beneath me trembled, and the rides creaked ominously. I turned to run, but the shadows closed in, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. Just as I thought I was lost, I remembered the flashlight. I turned it on, the beam slicing through the darkness, illuminating the girl's face. "Stay away from me," I screamed. Her smile faltered, and for a moment I saw fear in her eyes, but it was too late. The shadows lunged, dragging me down, and I felt myself slipping away, the laughter melding into a cacophony of despair. Now, I sit here in the dark, a new guard in this twisted amusement park. Every night I wait for the next one to join us, to play with the children who never left. And every night I hear my own voice echoing through the air, calling out to the next unsuspecting soul who will take my place. I can still hear their laughter, and soon you'll be able to join us too. My name is Evelyn Marsh, and I'm a 32-year-old freelance writer. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but after what happened last month, I feel compelled to share my experience. Maybe it will serve as a warning to others, or perhaps it's just my way of trying to make sense of the inexplicable. It all began when I decided to rent an old Victorian house on the outskirts of town. As a writer, I was drawn to its character and the promise of peace and quiet. The rent was surprisingly affordable, which should have been my first clue that something wasn't quite right. The day I moved in, I noticed an odd chill in the air, despite it being the middle of summer. I brushed it off, assuming the old house just needed some time to warm up. That night, as I lay in bed trying to sleep, I heard it for the first time, a faint whisper coming from within the walls. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, or maybe the wind, but as the days went by, the whispers grew louder and more distinct. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but the tone was urgent, almost pleading. I tried to ignore it, focusing on my work and telling myself it was all in my head. But then, strange things started happening. Objects would move on their own. Doors would slam shut without any breeze, and I'd wake up to find scratches on my arms that weren't there when I went to sleep. Desperate for answers, I began researching the history of the house. What I discovered chilled me to the bone. The house had been built in the late 1800s by a wealthy businessman named Edward Blackwood. He had a reputation for cruelty and was rumored to have murdered his wife and children before disappearing without a trace. As I dug deeper, I found old newspaper clippings describing how the bodies of Blackwood's family had never been found. Some speculated that he had hidden them within the walls of the house itself. The whispers grew more insistent, and I began to understand fragments of what they were saying. "Help us," they seemed to plead. "Find us." One night, unable to bear it any longer, I took a sledgehammer to the wall where the whispers seemed loudest. As I broke through the plaster, a gust of fetid air rushed out, carrying with it the unmistakable stench of decay. Heart pounding, I peered into the darkness beyond the hole I'd made. What I saw made me recoil in horror. Skeletal remains, partially mummified by the dry air within the walls, stared back at me with empty eye sockets. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling. That's when I heard a new sound. Heavy footsteps coming from the attic above. Footsteps that shouldn't have been there, as I lived alone. As the steps grew closer, descending the stairs towards my room, I realized with growing terror that the whispers had stopped. In their place was a deep, menacing chuckle that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I ran from the house that night and never returned. The police investigation that followed uncovered the remains of not just Blackwood's family, but dozens of other victims hidden throughout the house. They never found any trace of Edward Blackwood himself. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear those whispers in my dreams, but now, mixed in with their pleas for help, I hear something else. A warning. They tell me that Blackwood is still out there, searching for a new home, new walls to hide his secrets. So, I'm sharing this story with you, my YouTube audience, as a warning. If you ever find yourself in an old house with walls that whisper, run. Run before it's too late, before you become just another secret hidden away in the darkness. Because in this world, there are some mysteries that are better left unsolved, some evils that should remain buried, and sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we invite into our homes, never realizing the horrors that lurk just beneath the surface. It's Adam. I'm a wildlife photographer, and I've spent countless hours in remote locations, but nothing could prepare me for what happened to me last fall in a place called Hollow Creek. I want to share my experience with you, so buckle up. It's a wild ride. It was mid-October, and I had just wrapped up a successful shoot in the nearby mountains. The vibrant colors of autumn had drawn me to Hollow Creek, a secluded area known for its stunning landscapes and folklore. Locals whispered about strange occurrences, but I dismissed them as mere superstition. After all, I was there for nature, not ghost stories. I set up camp just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows through the gnarled trees. As darkness enveloped the forest, I began to hear the first whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind rustling the leaves, but then I realized the sounds were distinct, almost like voices. I shook it off, attributing it to my overactive imagination and the isolation. After a long day of shooting, I crawled into my tent, exhausted but excited to review the photos I had taken. That's when I heard it again, a soft, almost melodic whispering. It seemed to be coming from just outside my tent. My heart raced as I strained to listen, but the voices faded into silence. I convinced myself it was just the wind and tried to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to a thick fog blanketing the area. I stepped outside, camera in hand, hoping to capture the ethereal beauty of the mist. As I wandered deeper into the woods, the whispers returned, clearer this time, almost beckoning. Adam, come play. Adam. It sent chills down my spine, but curiosity pushed me forward. I followed the sound, my heart pounding until I stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. The wood was rotting and the windows were shattered, giving it an unsettling appearance. The whispers grew louder as I approached. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside, the creaking floorboards echoing my every movement. Inside, the air was dense, heavy with the scent of decay. I raised my camera, capturing the eerie atmosphere, when I noticed something strange. On the wall, scratched into the wood, were the names of people, many of whom I recognized from local legends. They were said to have gone missing in Hollow Creek over the years. I felt a shiver run down my spine, realizing the gravity of where I was. Suddenly, the whispers intensified, swirling around me like a storm. I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut, trapping me inside. Panic set in as I banged on the door, shouting for help. The whispers transformed into laughter, a cacophony of voices that echoed in my mind, drowning out my own thoughts. Desperate, I began to search for another way out. As I moved through the dimly lit cabin, I noticed a trap door in the corner, partially hidden beneath a tattered rug. With no other option, I pried it open and descended into darkness. The air was damp and cold, and the whispers followed me down, now an ominous chant. In the underground chamber, I found remnants of the past. Old toys, torn photographs, and a mirror that seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. As I approached it, I caught a glimpse of myself, but the reflection wasn't quite right. My face looked hollow, my eyes sunken and dark. The whispers surged then, crescendoing into a deafening roar, and just as I thought I would lose my mind, I saw them, faint figures emerging from the shadows, their faces twisted in anguish. I stumbled backward, realizing these were the lost souls of Hollow Creek, trapped by something sinister. "Join us, Adam!" they chanted, their voices weaving into my thoughts. I felt myself being pulled towards them, the desire to belong overwhelming. Just as I was about to surrender, a sudden clarity hit me. I remembered my purpose. I was a photographer, not a victim. With a surge of willpower, I broke free from the whispers, sprinting back up the stairs and kicking open the door. I dashed into the forest, the laughter fading behind me. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. As I drove away from Hollow Creek, my heart racing, I glanced at the photos I had taken. But when I looked at the cabin, I froze. In the corner of one picture, a figure stood, pale, gaunt, and unmistakably watching me. I hadn't seen it then, but it was as if the very spirit of the place had captured my moment, forever watching, waiting for the next soul to join its tormented chorus. I haven't returned to Hollow Creek since that day, but every night when I close my eyes I hear the whispers, and I know they're still calling my name. So, if you ever find yourself near Hollow Creek, remember my story. Some places are better left undisturbed. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales of the unknown. Stay safe out there. My name is David Carter, and I'm a night shift nurse at St. Michael's Hospital, a sprawling old building that has seen better days. It's 2 a.m. on a chilly November night, and I've just finished my rounds on the second floor. The flickering fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows on the walls, making even the most mundane objects look sinister. Most of the patients are asleep, their soft breaths echoing in the sterile silence. But there's one room that's different. Room 213 is notorious among the staff. It's home to Mr. Thompson, a patient who has been in and out of consciousness since his admittance. They say he was involved in some kind of accident, but the details are always vague. The whispers among the nurses claim he's haunted, that he murmurs strange things in the dead of night. I've never believed in ghost stories, but as I approach the door, an unsettling chill runs down my spine. I enter the room, and the stale air hits me like a wall. Mr. Thompson lies motionless, his face pale and gaunt, a stark contrast to the dark sheets of the hospital bed. The heart monitor beeps steadily, a rhythmic reminder of life, yet there's something unnerving about his stillness. As I check his vitals, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. Suddenly, the lights flicker more violently, and I hear it. The faintest whispering, like a soft rustling of leaves. I pause, straining to catch the words, but they elude me, slipping through my fingers like smoke. My heart races. I convince myself it must be my imagination playing tricks on me, a side effect of the fatigue from the long shifts. But then I notice something odd. Mr. Thompson's eyes flutter open, revealing a depth of darkness I didn't expect. They're vacant, yet there's an intensity in his gaze that sends a shiver down my spine. "Help me," he whispers, his voice raspy and weak. "They're coming for me." "Who's coming for you?" I ask, trying to maintain professionalism despite the tightening knot in my stomach. "They hide in the walls," he mutters, his eyes darting around the room as if he can see something I cannot. "They watch. They wait." I try to reassure him, but the fear in his eyes is palpable. I get up to check the monitors and assure myself that he's stable, but the whispers grow louder, filling the room with an almost tangible tension. It's as if the very walls are alive, breathing in sync with the pulse of the hospital. "David!" he suddenly calls out, his voice rising in urgency. "You have to listen. They want you to. The shadows. They feast on fear." I laugh nervously, trying to dismiss the absurdity of his words. "You're just delirious, Mr. Thompson. You need to rest." But as I turn away, I catch a glimpse of something flitting in my peripheral vision. I whip around, but there's nothing there. Just the sterile white walls and the dim glow of the monitor. I can feel the air thickening, almost suffocating me, and I decide it's time to leave the room. As I step into the hallway, I hear the whispers again, clearer this time. They seem to echo from the very walls calling my name. "David! David! Come play!" A chill runs through me, and I quicken my pace, heading towards the nurse's station. But as I reach it, the lights flicker out completely, plunging me into darkness. Panic surges within me. I fumble for my phone to use its flashlight, the dim beam casting long shadows that dance across the floor. I can't shake the feeling that something is lurking just beyond the edges of my vision. I hear footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate. I turn sharply, but the corridor is empty, the silence deafening. I feel a cold sweat trickling down my back. I'm not alone. "David!" comes a soft voice, and I spin around, heart pounding. It's Mr. Thompson, standing at the entrance of his room, though his eyes are now shrouded in darkness. "They're here!" I want to scream to run, but my legs feel like lead. "What do you mean?" I choke out, the words barely escaping my lips. "Listen to me!" he pleads, stepping closer, but his movements are jerky, unnatural. "You have to find the truth. The shadows, they're not just in my head. They're real. They feed on despair." Just then, the lights flicker back to life, and I see him clearly. He's changed, his face twisted into a grotesque mask of fear, his body writhing as if struggling against an unseen force. I step back, horrified. In that moment, I realize the truth. The whispers are not just figments of a fevered mind. They're a warning, a call to those who dare to uncover what lies beneath the surface of this hospital. I glance at the walls, and for the first time, I see them, the shadows, writhing just beneath the paint, hungry and waiting. Before I can escape, Mr. Thompson lunges at me, but he's not himself. The fear in his eyes is replaced with something darker, something hungry. "Join us, David!" he screams, and the shadows spill from the walls like ink, consuming the light. I stumble backward, heart racing, and in a moment of sheer instinct, I dash past him, fleeing down the corridor. The whispers grow louder, a cacophony of voices urging me to stop, to turn back. But I can't. My life depends on it. I burst through the emergency exit, gasping for fresh air, my mind racing. I don't stop until I reach my car, feeling the weight of the shadows behind me, clawing at my sanity. As I drive away from St. Michael's, I glance in the rearview mirror, and for one terrifying moment, I see him standing there, Mr. Thompson, engulfed in darkness, a grotesque smile stretching across his face. "I'll be waiting, David," he whispers, the shadows reaching out toward me, pulling at my very soul. And that was the last time I stepped foot in that hospital. I may have escaped, but the whispers never left. They haunt my dreams, reminding me that some truths are better left buried, hidden in the dark where the shadows dwell. This is my story, a warning for anyone who dares to tread the halls of St. Michael's Hospital after dark. It's a place where fear feeds the darkness, and once you hear the whispers, there's no turning back.